What's up? Zombie Talk 123 here. Today was actually a pretty decent day for free agent news and trade rumors. Mostly free agent news at this point, as the Jonathan Sanchez and Melky Cabrera trade is now yesterday's news, as that trade definitely improved the Giants and the Royals. Now we go on today. Willie Bloomquist. This is a guy who I thought maybe the D-backs would not re-sign because Bloomquist opted out of his side of the mutual agreement, and then a few days later, the Diamondbacks signed John McDonald. A pretty good defensive shortstop, but not a great hitter. And Willie actually did a really good job, kind of platooning in different areas for the Diamondbacks. A guy who a lot of people didn't expect to play a big role in the Diamondbacks last year, but when Stephen Drew got hurt, he filled in for the outfield. He was a leadoff hitter for some time. He was batting around 300 for a while. His average definitely was not 300 at the end of the year, but he had a very solid year. The fact that he played shortstop, second in the outfield, he played a lot of different positions for them. He was definitely valuable for them. They say, yeah, we'll go with you on the option, and then he says no, and Scott Boras says, I believe he says, it sounds to me like what happened is they got upset when Willie opted out. They got emotional and they went out and signed a guy who hit 169. 69. So Scott Boras, being Scott Boras, there saying that when Willie opted out of his contract, they went out just in anger and signed John McDonald. I don't think that's why they signed Jonathan McDonald, but it's kind of funny that Scott Boras would say it. So it's kind of awkward when you're trying to make an agreement and you're like, yeah, so I heard you said this about me, I heard that, But they got it done, and actually I'm pretty surprised this happened. I thought Willie Bloomquist, since he opted out of the mutual deal, that he would go sign somewhere else. Not just because he opted out of the mutual deal, but maybe more money was available somewhere else. And then when the Diamondbacks signed John McDonald, I thought Bloomquist was probably going to be out because of the fact they still have Stephen Drew, and it looks like they would still be interested in maybe Aaron Hill. And it was today released kind of the news that they're interested in Aaron Hill. And there's still Kelly Johnson out there if they want to retain him from the trade that happened. We'll see. Now, a lot of people, the free agent market is kind of slow because they're waiting for the CBA, collective bargaining agreements. They're trying to find a different way to reward teams when they have to give up a type A free agent. So, for example, I'm a Cardinal fan and I am pushing for Kelly Johnson, but then I realize he's a type A free agent. And it's like, okay, we're going to have to give up a first round or supplementary first round draft pick. I think it'd be the 28th draft pick, overall draft pick for just signing Kelly Johnson. And I'm like, we just won the World Series. Not saying we're not going to try to compete next year, but, we could just sign Skip Schumacher back, and that would be the easiest way. I mean, obviously, I love Kelly Johnson, but giving up a first round draft pick is just too much for him. So if they alter that, I think a lot of teams are going to be waiting to see what will they have to give up. Will it be, a certain amount of money? Will it be a later draft pick? I don't know how they're going to do that, but they're going to have to get creative because I don't think any team likes to lose. I mean, obviously for the team that's going to be receiving the draft pick, they would definitely want it. And the Cardinals went out, and I think part of the trade that they made was, yes, they got Zepchinski, was a main part of the trade to be there for a few years, maybe it turned into a starter. Definitely gave them a lot of depth and lefty reliever they needed that. He's only 25. Then they get Edwin Jackson. That was kind of like the dude the starting pitcher that they needed to win and get to the playoffs. Octavio Dotel, another guy who could ultimately get them a draft pick at the end of the year. And also, I mean, he makes the bullpen a lot better. And so you add those guys and Corey Patterson, just kind of another extra platoon guy in there. So, you add those guys in there and you just give up one guy. Well, I guess three guys, but I don't even count Talent or Miller as really. They didn't do anything for the Cardinals this year, really. They did good. Talent wasn't a Cardinal 2 years ago, but, Miller had some good years with the Cardinals, but he was not effective this year. So, really, they gave up Colby Rasmus when we had as good as or better player in John Jay. Maybe not talent-wise, but how he's performing. He's performing just as well as Colby Rasmus, and he probably will perform just as well as Colby Rasmus next year. Unless something happens with Colby Rasmus, I don't expect him to all of a sudden become an all-star with the Toronto Blue Jays because, looking at his numbers, just not consistent. And obviously, yes, it was good for him to get out of St. Louis, so maybe he'll put up better numbers. But, the way he was even batting in Toronto, I think he definitely has something to prove next year because that trade really just benefited the Cardinals at this point. The Cardinals, they have, John Jay, they got all those guys, and they won the World Series. So no matter what happened in the regular season after that trade happened, they won the World Series. It doesn't even matter. No matter who they gave up in a trade, if they won the World Series, that makes the trade worth it because that's the ultimate goal every year. And realistically, you're not thinking you make a trade to win the World Series, but they won it. So it's all good right now. But we definitely do need to focus on the offseason as Cardinal fans. And I don't know how I'm talking about the Cardinals when I first started talking about the Diamondbacks. It's something I do a lot. Sorry about that. But Willie Bloomquist, I thought he'd be definitely a good option for a lot of teams looking for a second baseman, shortstop, outfield, platooning type guy, someone to start every day, someone to come off the bench. Whatever they decide to do, I think he could be getting like $2.5 million a year. At most, if he went to a different team, but he does reach an agreement with the Diamondbacks. Now the Diamondbacks have Stephen Drew, John McDonald, they have Willie Bloomquist. If they're interested in Aaron Hill, I mean, how many guys can you fit in the shortstop and second base position? And then of course Willie Bloomquist could play outfield though, but I mean they pretty much have a packed infield right now, and I think at the end of the day, I'm really not exactly sure what they're gonna do. I really don't know. So Bloomquist hit like 270 last year. Had almost 400 plate appearances. Had a good year. So definitely a good a move for the Diamondbacks, paying him not even $2 million a year. So they're getting him at a pretty good price. It's just the fact that they're kind of packing their infield. That I'm not sure how effective it will be next year. So I'm not really rating this move yet. I think that they could have saved the money and maybe spent on something better. I really don't think they need Willie Bloomquist at this point, especially if they're interested in signing Aaron Hill back. But he could be helped at shortstop because John McDonald really doesn't hit much. So I can see why they made the move. But just kind of overpacking the infield at this point. It's like, if you're going to make the move, then why'd you sign John McDonald? But I think they signed John McDonald for the defense, signed Willie Bloomquist for the offense. But they do have Stephen Drew. So you got to remember that. So it's like, you got pretty much an all-star shortstop coming back at some point. So I don't know. It's kind of confusing. At some point, you're like, I'm not even sure. But he obviously has reason behind it, and a pretty good signing, a pretty good price signing at least. Thanks for watching. Let me talk. 1, 2, 3.